Welcome to the Reality Check. Your host, Ben Gentleman, here with you, the July 10th, 2018 edition. So today we'll talk about, of course, Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court pick, World Cup, go over a little bit of that, UFC 226, the review. We'll talk about some signs, political that maybe, talk about I.C.E, Roe v. Wade, and many other things that we will go over from start to finish. So hopefully everyone had a good July 4th. That was nearly 1 week ago, pretty much. One day, I say tomorrow will be 1 week, but so, it's a good time in America, good time to be American, good time for pride, as always, but none other than July 4th, of course. Now, what do we have? First, we have, of course, the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court pick. A middle of the road, lean right guy, Brett Kavanaugh. He's not a right-wing extremist. He's definitely not to the right of me. He's definitely to the left of my views. But you know what? It's not really about my views. It's about upholding a constitution. They're not making the law Supreme Court picks. They are actually, just basically making sure the laws are followed and nobody gets skirted or nobody's outskirting the law. And that's pretty much what the Supreme Court, what they do. They're not supposed to, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, she's going to make the law in a roundabout way. No, that's not what you're there for. You're not the star of the show. You're not supposed to be making up stuff. You're just supposed to follow it and make sure everything's a fair shake at the end. And overturn courts that go out of like the Nine Circus Court, those jokes. You have to rein back in people that get out of control. Obviously the pick is going to be contested. They're going to compare it to Merrick Garland, how he didn't get a chance to get a vote to be a Supreme Court, but not even a close thing. Number one is, I'm not going to say I agree. I think they should have gave him his vote. I was on record saying that, but that is Barack Obama, who played a game of vindictiveness, division, just nastiness, not only with the American people, with the political way. And he was the one who opened his mouth. Before he was President Obama, he really was kind of a just there vote for everything. But the few things he did say on record always came back to bite him, which shows what a fraud he was, because it's easy to hold other people accountable, but when it's your turn to be accountable and you're not, just like Janet Napolitano, where she said the government should pay for all the damage that illegals are doing to Arizona, and she sent them a bill, and then when she got the position to pay off the bill, all we heard were the birds chirp. Never a payment, never a mention of it, nothing. That just shows what a fraud she was. And in that sense, that's the way Barack Obama was. When he said adding debt to our country's debt limit was unpatriotic when Bush did it, and then he did it all the time and never said a word about it. And this was the same thing. When Bush was getting a Supreme Court pick and he had about a year left in his presidency, he said no president should get a Supreme Court pick with 1 year left. So then he had one with 6 months left, and of course it was used against him. He opened his mouth, a foot was placed in it appropriately. Whether you disagree or agree with the principle of it, it was put in his mouth. Just like Harry Reid, who went down to 50 from the 60 votes that Senate needed. Now all these things are coming back to bite him. And they were told, you do these things, there's going to be a day where you're not in power, and these things come back to bite you. But they didn't care, and that's what you have here. So now they're trying to delay and make excuses, and it's like Merrick Garland, it was, and it's not, and I mean, they've skirted the law many times. This is a legitimate pick. You vote him, you don't vote him, either way. I think Trump's put your fools in check, because if you vote Kavanaugh down, the next person is going to be more extreme, because Kavanaugh is kind of a bushy, McCain, I mean, right the minute when McCain was drooling out of his mouth to say Kavanaugh is qualified, you knew that he was in the middle there. So, and I have no problem with that. I mean, as long as he follows the law, that's all I care about. I want the Supreme Court people to not, after they follow the law, they could put a little opinion in their dissent or on, agreement. But when they're doing a court case. It needs to be about the law, not fake stuff. You know, it needs to be the law. Oh, pretty much that's enough about Brett Kavanaugh for now. I mean, we'll go through it for weeks. It's not an exciting subject, you know. It is what it is. It's important, but you know, there's not too much we can say. I mean, the guy's got a good record. You know, you're going to find he took a roll of toilet paper out of a government office one day and didn't return it. You know, that's how desperate they're going to get there with Chuck U. Schumer and Pelosi and you know the rest of the clown crew over there. Whatever. So next up, we'll go World Cup. Right? We'll do some sports. Now, World Cup. Been some exciting games. Obviously, today was Belgium, France, and tomorrow is going to be England, Croatia. I had picked from the beginning of the brackets Belgium to win it all and beat Croatia in the finals, and sadly, that's not going to happen. Now, Croatia, I think, is at a lot of risk right now. They've had two games that they had to dig deep down for to win. In England, pretty much they played Sweden last game. And they played Colombia. Those two teams are okay, but not the same level of competition that Croatia had played. And, you know, so I think Croatia is going to be, you know, they're going to get tired. If it's a close game late, they're going to get tired, and it could be their undoing. I mean, and the best player in the field, Harry Kane, plays for England, so I still think Croatia can win. They have, you know, with Modric, an amazing team. They've pulled it out, but they are vulnerable. Now, as far as today, the game that did happen, the Belgium and France game, it's a decent game. France did what they did. They're a very young team. I didn't think they'd go this far just for being that young, and they have a lot of stars in their team. Their goaltender was really good today. They won 1-0 and beat Belgium. I think, you know, it was what it was. They played, I think the teams played pretty even. France had their moments. Belgium had theirs. I think, though, the officiating was pretty poor in the game. I mean, there was barely any where France, there wasn't really many calls in the game, much less against France, where they were pulling and grabbing a lot at the end. You know, it is to be expected if the ref lets you get away with it, that's what happens. But I don't know. I think you got to send these messages early. It's just a shame. So that was that. France advances to the finals. They're the first team in, and they will play the winner of the England-Croatia game. And so Belgium will play the loser for the third place finish. You know, still a good run for Belgium, one of their best, if they could finish this off and finish in third. And, you know, that's pretty much it for that. France, man, it's dangerous because they are such a young team. I think they're the second youngest team in the World Cup. And, so, I mean, as far as they're going now, next World Cup, they should even be better. Although it's a long time away and things change, they have a shot at winning this one. And they're in good shape for the next one. Now, let's see. More sports. UFC. Let's do UFC review, right? So UFC 226, Las Vegas. Of course, we had the fight that dropped off after my show last week. It was the Max Holloway fight. At first, they said he had concussion-like syndromes. Now they're saying he was doing some water stuff, drank too much water, had water poisoning. Who knows what it is? This is 2 weight cuts in a row he didn't make. So I don't know what's up with Holloway, if he has to move up or what the deal is, but pretty disappointing. They couldn't even keep Ortega on the card. That stinks. Hopefully Ortega probably fight Jeremy Stevens for the title. I think that would be a good fight. And yeah, I think that would be a good fight, and then we'll see where it shakes out. If Holloway could get back in the mix, maybe Frank Edgar gets back in the mix, who knows? But that's pretty much the fight to make as soon as possible. And then, of course, for 226, so I had said that Platinum Mike Perry, Paul Felder fight, that was one to watch in the prelims, and I actually was running out of time. I had thought about making a prediction on that, but, you know, I don't usually do prelim ones unless they're a super, you know, really good fight. And that one was, I thought it would be really, really good, but it wasn't on the main card. And then, of course, it got bumped up to the main card. That was a really good fight, exciting. Mike Perry won that. You know, both guys had a lot of heart. They both hit each other. They both cut each other up. And obviously, Mike Perry did more damage, hit Felder with a lot more cleaner shots. You know, Platinum Mike Perry looked way more focused than he had his last two fights, and he came out with a win. He went back, like you said, to basics. Bullying him up on the cage, dirty boxing, a lot of elbows or forearms. So good for Mike Perry. It's good to see him back. Paul Felder, he'll continue on and journey on, but a good fight. Nobody's for the worse in that, but definitely for Mike Perry, it was good to see him get back on the winning track. That was good for him. Then we had the opening fight, which was Gohan Saki against Khalil Roundtree. I had predicted Khalil would get a second round submission, but he actually just dropped some bombs early on Saki, and Khalil Roundtree, first round KO. I mean, it was a pretty, quick fight to open it up, and good for Roundtree. He'll be moving on. He'll be 8-3, and Saki will be 1-2. Not much else I could say from there. Next fight, Michael Chiesa, as they say. Cheesy, but yeah, Chiesa did not make weight, said he's moving up a weight class. That was pretty disappointing. He didn't make weight, so who knows what effect that had on it, because when a guy's at that point they're so much overweight that they can't even come close to trying at the end. Obviously, maybe they already passed out or something happened, or who knows. Their heart isn't in it. They're already broken before the fight starts. And so that's kind of what I think happened. I had thought that Pettis, I had thought that Pettis would win in the third round by submission. He actually won in the second round by submission. Now, for Pettis, people are like, he looked like an old self. He was, doing his little, I get the belt, I should get the belt thing. This fight did not prove that. Was it a stepping stone from where Pettis was before, where he looked horrid his last bunch of fights? Yeah, it was. At least you could see some positive. Definitely he had a little bit more fight in him, but he still looks like a shell of himself. Like I would say, I had people over, and you would see Pettis how quick he was. He was always quick, whether he was kicking or trying to take you down or avoiding your shot. Always trying to do. He was quick. He just looks more plotty now. The quickness is not there, and that was his biggest asset. I mean, with his wide variety of arrays of attacking and how quick he was, that was, important. That was an important tackle, and he just looked way slower. I mean, Michael Chiesa, he didn't look that good. I mean, it was a little bit entertaining fight, nothing big, but like I said, Pettis, second round submission. He'll move on, and I guess Chiesa will move up weight class, and we'll see how that works out for him. Chiesa is 14-4 now, and Pettis is 21-7, and we'll see. Maybe Pettis will fight like he said he wanted a top 10 guy. I believe he should get one. We'll see where he's at. That'll be a gauge to top 5 guy, somewhere around there. See if he's really making that way back up to the championship level, or if he's just kind of the gatekeeper now. So the next fight that was just a snooze fest. I was literally with 2 other people in the house. We talked through the whole fight. And they were kind of talking. I was adding in. Every time I looked up, nothing was really happening. So I went back to talking, and I'm like, I don't keep on missing this fight. And you're like thinking Francis Ngannou missed their one-punch knockout, and Derek Lewis, who has power himself. You knew if they got to the third round, it would be pretty rough. These guys would be gassed. But you thought you'd see some bombs in the first few rounds. And I mean, I was like looking and thinking, God, am I missing all the punching in here? Wow, Derek Lewis must be doing a good job of ducking, or what's going on here? And I don't even think these guys had 50 combined strikes. I'm not even talking significant strikes. I'm just talking in general. I mean, you see sometimes fights that end a minute and a half in the first round that have more striking in them. I mean, it was a horrid performance. Coming off his loss to Stipe, Ngannou had nothing, and it was Lewis won by a decision. So Lewis moves to 20-5, Francis Ngannou 11-3. I think that moves Lewis right up there as far as a heavyweight. Maybe Benny Blade's fight. But definitely he moves up Lewis. He did what he needed to do. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't great, but he did what he needed to do. I mean, that's really on. I mean, the guy's got to push, especially when you're down in the third round, you've done nothing. I mean, you just got to start going for broke. I mean, do you want to try to win or just avoid getting knocked out? I mean, that's really what you got to ask yourself. So, like I said, Derek Lewis by decision. Just a pretty bad fight in general for not even guys that were technical trying to take each other down, where some people could say, okay, yeah, it might be boring to you, but it's actually really technical. But you can't even make that excuse in this fight. It was just nothing there. It was nothing there. So then we had our main event, and a back and forth fight, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. Both have belts. Obviously, Stipe's belt was on the line. This was a heavyweight fight. And Cormier came in pretty heavy for this one. He didn't have to cut weight. So that was good for him. And I thought that Stipe would take the fifth round to keep the belt, kind of like a Jones-Gustafsson, like a real war like that fight. That's what I thought it would be like. And it was one round, first round knockout for Cormier. They both hit each other with pretty good shots. And then Stipe was just a little bit loose. I was even watching an old fight of Stipe when he was younger, and he even looked more technical and tight in the beginning. He just looked a little bit loose. I don't know if he didn't think Cormier had the power to knock him out. Maybe that's why he was just trying to, I don't know, that's what he was doing, if that was what his game plan was, but it was the wrong game plan, and he got exposed by Cormier. I think that could end the talk of how they say that Stipe was the greatest heavyweight ever. I mean, this is I know Cormier is a champ, but that's not a good loss. No loss is good, but especially when you lose your title. But on top of that, you lost to somebody coming up to fight you, and in the first round, and not a guy who's known for his punching power. Cormier is known for smothering you, ground and pound, being on top of you, and Stipe's a bigger guy, and he got worked. And Cormier, all credit to him. 2-division champ. He's pretty much undefeated. You can say he has 2 losses, but he's never lost at the heavyweight level, and his only losses at light heavyweight to somebody who's a multiple-time failed drug test person, and John Jones. For Cormier, a great night. 2 belts. Not only that, but I mean, the way he even told you at the end of the fight how he saw something that Stipe did. He dropped his hands when he comes out of the break, and they popped him. That's what they worked on, and he popped him, and that was it. That's what changed the fight. That was pretty even at the time, maybe even Stipe a little ahead, and he just blew him up. And then after the fight, of course, as he's basking in his moment of glory, 2 belts. And we saw right before the fight Brock Lesnar come up ringside. And then all of a sudden, of course, Brock Lesnar is in the cage. But, Cormier said he did want to fight him next. And then Brock Lesnar comes in and pushes Cormier and tells you how everybody sucks. So they're going to fight, of course, next. That'll be an interesting fight. Just because, man, he is going to be so much bigger, Lesnar, than Cormier. But Cormier's got a lot of skill if he can get him down. We'll see. Very interesting fight. I won't lie to you, it's very interesting. Is Brock Lesnar deserving of that fight? No, but it's a very interesting fight, and obviously will make a lot of money. So that'll be that. That'll be coming up. It can't happen until at least January because Brock Lesnar just got back into the testing pool, so he has to pass all his drug tests from now till January, which will, I'm sure, be many because obviously he's failed before. So that ought to be interesting. Kind of leaves the light heavyweight division in limbo. But we'll see. And the heavyweight division in limbo for that matter. Because then Benny Blades, he's not going to be able to fight for a belt. Light heavyweight with Gustafsson, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But it was a few decent fights. Not a great card overall. Historic moment, obviously, with Cormier. So that adds a little touch to it. But, with the co-main event, the Lewis fight being a bomb, and the Anthony Pettis fight was okay, the Roundtree fight was okay. It was kind of just not an impactful card, sadly. But hopefully we make up with it and get an extra event soon with maybe Ortega coming on to one of these cards in the near future. Who knows, but I don't know. So, Anyway, let's talk a little local right now. So we know that driving around town, Mesa, Arizona, we had the big storm yesterday, flooded the side of my house, went into my garage, flooded my garage. So is me. More work, more money down the drain. I'll get over it. No, I won't. But anyways, I'm driving around town, of course, and what do we have? We have signs, 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 everywhere signs. Now, yes, that was a song, and it was a song that was redone by Tesla, as a matter of fact. Um, but political signs, they're allowed to be placed on private property and in the public right of way. Um, the signs can be placed 60 days before the primary election. They have up to 15 days after the election to remove them. So, really, just I don't know how it is in other places, but I mean, Arizona is where I've lived for the last 22 years, 21 years, almost 22. These signs are everywhere. It's just a blight on the community. Um, they shouldn't be. I'm sorry. If people want to put them on their private property, I have no problem with that. My neighbors can put up all the signs they want, as long as they're on their property. That's their business. I don't tell people how to run their path, but the ones that are on street corners, every time you're red light, there's sign after sign falling on top of each other. Just signs, signs, signs. And it's just hazardous to the public safety. It's ugly. Like I said, a blight on the town. And then the signs are just stupid. I mean, anybody votes because any of these signs, please raise your hand. Let us take away your vote because I mean, just yeah, maybe you'll do research because you see something on the sign. That's fine, but like, these signs. I mean, just holy cow! I mean, especially like the candidate ones, whatever. Vote for me. I'm a schmuck. And we have one like that in Arizona. Vote for me. I'm a schmuck. So that's one thing. But just you see these signs, and we have props out here. So for those you don't have in your area, we have prop votes. So you can you hire convicts or whoever you want to get a bunch of signatures, and if you get enough signatures, they'll put it on the ballot. So whether it's from legalizing marijuana to whatever you want, money for schools, or don't hang wet towels up in the back of your property, whatever it is, you can put up this prop if you get enough signatures and obviously follow the rules. So you'll see these signs and they'll say prop whatever, like a number, like let's say one, prop 306, stop crack in school. Oh wow, cool, I'm going to vote for 306. I don't want crack in school. And what's it really about then? It's not about crack in school like the drug. It's about a crack in the foundation of the school. And you're going to stop it by giving a contract to the councilman's in that district's friend's company who does construction, and they'll fix all the cracks in the school for 10 times more than they normally would because you voted for Prop 306 and you've stopped crack in school. These signs are just unbelievable. You have, and just you can see them like even mirrored. Vote no on 205. Protect our kids. Keep Arizona drug free. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Vote yes on 205. Safer communities and money for schools. So wait, if I vote yes, we're safer and I get money for my school, but then I don't protect the kids and I don't keep it drug free, so I don't know. How does it make the community safe? So if I vote no, then my kids are protected, keeping it drug free, but my community won't be safer and my school's going to be poor. Like, I don't understand. How could the prop be both? Like, they're just silly. It's like usually a square sign or whatever, rectangle, whatever, circle, some of them. And I'll say, vote yes on this. And one little thing. And I'll say, no more debt. Vote no on 104. And then this one says, yes on 104 to make everything better. How do you even know what any of that means? It's just silly. Vote no to protect our Constitution. And I'll give you a list of things. Vote yes on Prop 123 for schools without raising taxes. What's for schools? I mean, man, just these signs should just be outlawed. They don't tell you anything. If you want to look up the props, you can. You get a booklet in the mail. You know, it's just a blight on the community. I'm telling you. Axe the signs. That's what I say. We don't want any more of these political signs. They're ugly. They're stupid. You know. Yeah, I'm done with the signs already, and we still have months upon months of these signs. So let's talk about ice. Yes, we need ice to cool down Arizona. But I'm talking about, of course, not that ice, right? I'm talking about our government ice, the immigration and custom enforcement, right? That ice. So you got these pools that want to ban ice, right? Now, why is it they want to ban ice? Well, they tell you it's for the children. And that's like when somebody's telling you for the children these days, you got to start gripping your fingers and your teeth and say, for the children, what's this really about? Let's look into it. Because it's not about the children. So what does ICE do? Now, you see them rounding up people. Yes, they do that. They're national security monitors. They conduct field enforcement operations, investigations, prosecution, removal of foreign-born terrorists. They are transnational gangs. They get, they target the violent transnational street gangs because they have the broad enforcement law, so they can do that. So you see all these ICE agents rounding up these kids, teenagers, and ban them, they're separating kids from their mom. No, what they're doing is actually taking gangbangers off the streets. Probably some will have sold drugs to your kids or tried to attack some of your kids or maybe stole your stuff or, hurt somebody physically. ICE takes these gangs off the street. And here's one they don't like at all, drug trafficking, right? They actually enforce the Controlled Substances Act. They investigate drug trafficking organizations who import their product across the U.S. air, land, water, the borders, as well as their smuggling methods. If they use high-speed vessels, the cargo containers, aircraft, commercial trucking, commercial vessels, human carriers. So this is not for your average drug dealer, that is in your local one and done, or a little here, a little there. This is for big bus, big gangs, people that are doing this that are obviously not nickel and dime dealers that are multi-million dealers, where they're smuggling drugs, with obviously expensive ways because they're smuggling so much. ICE also has a cybercrime center, which I wish we'd actually expand. So they actually help in the prosecution, or I should say the people who are in possession or manufacture, distribute images of kids, international money laundering, and illegal cyber banking, illegal arms trafficking, illegal exports of controlled commodities. Obviously, the drug trafficking, like I told you, but obviously it has to do with online as part of the cybercrimes thing. General smuggling, stolen art, antiquities, things that are in violation of the Endangered Species Act, or like ivory that's illegal, intellectual property rights violations, immigration violations like identity fraud and benefits theft. So ICE actually is part of the leaders in that. Child exploitation, which is huge. They've arrested thousands of people this year just for that. So they have operations like Save Our Children, Operation Falcon, Operation Mango, Operation Predator, which they just identify predators to keep children safe. They coordinate nationally and internationally. They use many resources, and that's part of what ICE does. Not what you see, this junk on TV, they're separating this and that. Firstly, they're people that are doing their job, what they're told to, just like a police officer, when you get arrested, they have to take the kids and put them somewhere else. Arms trafficking, and they work on, that, and amongst other things they do. They're very prevalent here in the state that I live in, Arizona. It's just important the work they do. They're not just some group that's going around, they actually keep kids safe than most people. And that's some of the reasons why people don't like ICE. Because they don't want drugs stopped. They don't want the child porn and all that stuff stopped. So if there's nobody watching over that, who's going to stop it? That's what they want. That's why to them it's so, oh my gosh, no ICE, no ICE. If you wanted one part of that stopped, then you would say that. But when you want to abolish something, you know what they do. Everybody knows. You might not know exactly everything I told you, just like I probably learned by reading some of it to research for the show, but you knew they did more than what you're accusing them of. So now, let's see, big in the news, Roe v. Wade, of course. That's all you hear. People screaming about whoever it was, whether it was going to be Jesus or Moses or your neighbor Fred, whoever it was going to be that was a Supreme Court pick. No, they're against Roe v. Wade, and they're against the world, and it's going to be bad. And of course, Roe v. Wade is their highlight one because that's the easiest one to pick. So obviously, Roe v. Wade, right? Was the year I was born, 1973, was kind of when it was decided. I know it started sometime in late 71, but it was actually Roe v. Wade was decided in 73 when I was born. Or right before I was born, I think it was decided in the beginning of 73. So the decision's about as old as me. And just basically, it gave this, it was basically the women's decision to have an abortion. It gave you that right. In short. So always a national debate, hot topic issue, because it's not a wishy-washy one for the most part. Either you think it's okay or you don't. To be out, like most people are way extreme on one side and way extreme on the other. And I totally understand people that are extreme on at no time should you ever have an abortion. I get that. I don't agree 100% with that, but I get that. But people that think you should have an abortion when the baby's arm's coming out if you want to, that I don't get. I don't get that one at all. I mean, I think no matter what, you have to agree that there becomes a point where you think a baby's alive. Whether you think it's the point of where there's a heartbeat, where you think it's the point where the baby can survive outside of the womb, there has to be a point where you think this baby is alive. It can't be after the baby is living when it falls out. I mean, it just, you can't have that morality. I don't know. You have to think there's some point, whether you think it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, there's got to be some point, I would think, in 99% of people, where you're like, okay, there's got to be, you can't do this. It's just not humane. I mean, especially, it's just not humane. Now, so with Roe v. Wade, I mean, like I said, there's got to be, and this is the big button issue. For me, my personal beliefs on it are, I think as far as the law, Roe v. Wade, you can't just come in and overturn it, even if you wanted to, because we've taught people or let them believe and go through life. I mean, this is a law that's, 45 years old, and you can't just turn that around. It's going to lead to a lot of people making bad decisions. It's a shame. Now, I think you can modify some things, maybe make that point, which I believe there's got to be a point where you think this can't happen and that's got to be a whether it's 23 weeks, whatever it is, heartbeat, 8, something. Now, there is a lot of difference between now and 1973, right? A lot of people say, oh, I made a mistake or something happened, I was drinking too much. Now we have pills to take care of that, though. You have the morning after pill. Um, and please stop telling me people can't afford it and this and that. If you can't afford to buy the pill, then you just honestly shouldn't be having sex. It's just like people, oh, we should give out free condoms, and some people can't afford them. If you can't afford a condom, you can't afford to have sex. I'm sorry. You got to have some basic ground of morality. You shouldn't be putting anyone in a position you might get them pregnant if you can't afford to buy a condom. I'm sorry. You have no right to have a kid. So you can say you do, but if you can't afford to buy a condom, I'm sorry. Sometimes common sense has got to lead the road. So as far as my views, like I was saying, I think once a heartbeat is established, you have a living baby. No abortion should be after that, except in the case of a health issue. They're very rare, but they do happen, and so that it could be granted pretty quickly. I don't think we need to have a trial about it. Here's two doctors, they agree, or two and a three, boom, to the court, you're granted. Now, people talk about case of rape, which is another scenario. I believe that an abortion is allowable. In most cases of rape now, we have the morning after pill. Should absolutely be given free to any victim of rape. No problem with that. Now, obviously, sometimes if you're held hostage or whatever for days or whatnot, or you're past the point of that, then in that case, I would have no problem with that. It's something you feel good about now. I'm sure even the victim obviously will have regrets either way. They're put in a no-win situation for them. I mean, and I would never want them to have to deal with a whole pregnancy from something like, I mean, that's horrible. So in those cases, okay, I'd be open to listen to other reasons, but otherwise there really isn't much reason. So, that's why I find myself in the middle. Like I said, to be extreme either side is crazy, but especially where you think it's okay. Like, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I could not stand Barack Obama. And anybody who votes for a botched abortion to let the baby who is alive outside of a womb to sit there and die in pain and not perform any procedures or any medical aid on a baby who is alive after a botched abortion or whatever the case may be is just, that's inhumane. And that's something you want to protest about. That's something you could be protesting and passionate about. Not some fake thing about people who broke the law, their kids being taken from them because they're criminal. That's criminal when you let a baby that's alive sit there and die in agony. No excuse for that. There's plenty of people that would love to adopt a baby. Sorry. Now, moving on from that part of it. So like I said, I wouldn't, in general, overturn Roe v. Wade right away if I was anybody. I'd try to set that timetable. And if we started at 23, 24 weeks, that would be good. To start, or even heartbeat, we get into I have no problem with that. A month, something around that time, but something, so we can have a little hard line of it all. In this way, if people aren't taking care of it by then, that's kind of on them. I mean, that's it. It's a rough subject. It's not anything entertaining. It's not something that people should be having fun over and celebrating. I see people doing their little yay for abortion and great for me to have an abortion. Like, I don't understand why that would be anything that anybody is proud of. Like, it's agonizing. Like, physically, mentally, I'm a guy. I'm a guy. Yeah. But for a woman, I'm saying it's their decision to do that is something that physically weighs on you, mentally weighs on you. I mean, it's just not good for your health, like physical or mentally. So for people to be parading about that and just this, I mean, the stuff you see people in their little skits like, yay for abortion, and I'm going to have abortion, and I'm proud of my abortion. And it's just a lack of moral compass at all. I mean, if you had one, you had one. I understand people get desperate. It's an easy solution, but it can't be a fun one. It can't be a good one. It's not a healthy one, mentally or physically. So now another topic on just the whole Roe v. Wade stuff. We always hear about women talking about their rights. It's their right. It's their right. It's their right. You can't tell me about my rights. Well, but it's not your right. It's actually a joint thing. Like, if you're married to somebody, you can't just decide what you want to do. If you and your spouse own a house, you can't just say, I'm selling the house. The heck with you. I really don't care. I don't need her signature because it's my right to sell this house. Who cares? Or it's my right to do what I want with my kid. Who cares even though you imagine if you made decisions like that about your kid? I'm going to let my kid, do drugs or whatever, and I don't care what my spouse says because it's my right. Does that make sense? Is that allowed? No. That's not the way you would even raise kids, raise a family, even do any business as far as kids now. But yet we have that here with the Roe v. Wade thing. It's actually you've incorporated a living being in you. That's one. And two, you didn't do that by yourself. I'm sorry. It wasn't the Immaculate Conception. Somebody helped you with that. And so I know guys are looked at as lesser in the process. I get that. I understand women go through way more. It's their body. Absolutely. They struggle, and they're the ones that are stuck if a man leaves. Because you obviously can't leave. Well, with the exception of the abortion, you can't leave your pregnancy. So I get all that. But where does the man get any rights? I mean, so let's say a woman just wants to have an abortion. She doesn't want to have the kid, but the man does. Where does he stand? He stands nowhere. You're laughed at. You're told to go shut up. You're treated like not even a second-class citizen, a third-class citizen. And the baby inside is treated like no citizen at all. Both the baby and the dad get no say. I mean, it's sad but true. It's hard to say what rights a dad should have, but you have less than none, which is pretty sad. Now, the thing is, obviously you can't make someone stay pregnant if they don't want to, unfortunately. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but that's obviously something that can't happen, but that's an unfortunate thing for a guy that guys have such little control in the process. It is what it is, but they should establish some rights for men. With that responsibilities, absolutely have no problem with that. There should be responsibilities. I mean, totally. I think every baby should be DNA tested. Absolutely, 100%. This way, this is the mom, this is the dad. There's no, okay? Because what if the mom doesn't tell you and then you think you're the dad? That's horrible for you. And it's even worse for the real dad. So somebody doesn't know that, hey, there's the kid. I was actually I watched Investigation Discovery a lot. I was actually watching an episode, strange enough, on that same thing. It was a guy, and he was starting to talk to his ex-girlfriend again. It was years later. And he was just looking at her social media and stuff, and he sees her daughter was practically born 9 months after, within 9 months of when they split up. And he was thinking, And so she finally admits, yes, that's your daughter. This girl's 16 at the time. She's married to some guy. And he's missed all that time. And then boom. Where were his rights? What happened to him? In this episode, the ID, this guy ended up missing, dead. Nobody knows. So, strange, right? Yeah, we know what happened in that case, but we'll skip those. Maybe we'll do an ID investigation discovery show one day because they have some very interesting cases there. I like there are good things to discuss. But just the Roe v. Wade thing, those are my thoughts on it. And it's not stop at the end all, this is it, blah, blah, women are going to be using hangers and whatever. Stop with the bull. I mean, strangely enough, Planned Parenthood, major aborters, Planned Parenthood. I mean, the irony in that is sad, but true. But how is it that they contribute millions, over 10 million, over 20 million, maybe over $30 million into each election cycle, and yet the government funds them? Why does the government need to fund them when they have all this extra money? Doesn't make any sense. There are a lot of cases that, on to my next subject. So there are a lot of cases of things that have been happening. Everybody knows about, we're closing in on, 9 months now from the Las Vegas shooting. We have the Seth Rich murder. We had a former CIA guy who said that they said he killed himself, but he ended up in a dumpster somehow. Then there was Ed Buck, right? Big Democrat donor. And there was a black guy who was a escort, drugged up, dead in this guy's house. And nothing's really happened about it. There's no moving on of it. It's going to get swept under the rug, it. Just like the Iranawan thing, selling computers, he did nothing wrong. He just misspelled his name on his SAT test. We'll charge him with that. I don't understand. Now, Thomas Sowell, most people know him. He said at one point, the very same people who say that the government has no right to interfere with sexual activity between consenting adults believe that the government has every right to interfere with economic activity between consenting adults. Strange, right? Strange. Yeah. So just remember that when you're swimming in the ocean and you're afraid to swim because maybe of a shark, you're more statistically likely to be killed by Hillary Clinton than a shark. Think about it, right? Now, let's see. What else do we have? Perk and Coy. Was it Coy? Perk and Coy, the law firm that funded the Steele dossier. They're the same people that money was funneled through for the Sheriff Joe attacks, the Jim Jordan attacks recently. They helped fund Stormy Daniels, CrowdStrike, the NC server. How is it the same law firm is involved in literally every scandal? Can we raid their office? And a real raid, not like the one they had with the Obama solar company there where nothing happened, right? Let's see, illegal alien kills 2 people, right? 2 law enforcement officers who weren't even on duty. Was one in a flat tire and the other stopped to help a fellow officer, which he didn't even know he was a fellow officer. 2 different agencies stopped to help him, and reckless driver, illegal alien, crashes into them, and it didn't constitute reckless disregard for life. $280 fine and gets to go back on the streets. Crazy. So here is an old story. It's pretty interesting. I got a chuckle out of it. And it just tells you the difference between like 2018. They would never write a story like this. But this is 1912, so imagine this story. There's so much about it that not only it wouldn't be said today the way it is, but just it's funny. So I'll I'll just start reading the story. So this was 1912, sometime October. It reads as follows. A 265-pound woman fell through the skylight of the Indiana Harbor State Bank today and landed on a cluster of bank directors who were holding their annual meeting. Miss Mary Bopa, living in an adjoining flat, uses the roof of the bank building as a place to dry her washing. She tripped over a basket and fell 30 feet, escaping with a few bruises. Several of the bank officials were knocked to the floor. Miss Bopa hit the table around which they were assembled with such force she completely wrecked it. The men, some of whom were cut by glass, became panic-stricken, and one of them drew a revolver. They suggested that Miss Bopa pay for the skylight and the table, but this she refused to do. Very interesting. Bank personnel, not the cops, but actually people that worked in the bank with a revolver. That's interesting in itself. 265-pound woman. So did they weigh her? How did they know what she weighed? Was it a guess? You wouldn't see that in today's newspaper. And then they suggested that she pay. She refused to do so. Now, not only would that happen today, but it would also be followed up with her bringing her lawyer because they will sue the bank because of what the bank did to her. They embarrassed her and humiliated her. So, very interesting, cute little story. I liked it. So that's good. Anyways, next up, let's see, what do we got? What was interesting was when those protests were happening outside where they had the signs that were like, this Supreme Court nominee is communist or terror, whatever they were saying, not good for America. And then they had to write in with the Sharpie pen the name Brett Kavanaugh. And they were protesting with their signs and screaming, the shrill screams. It's insane, like almost like a 2 or 3-year-old screaming with like, and they just scream for no reason, no self-control. That's what these people, like, they're adults and they're like just screaming. It's like they're just screaming, they're not even saying anything. Like some of them are talking and trying to say something, nothing of value, but they're trying to say something. And then there are other people just make sounds and scream. So anyway, in the midst of that and that chaos, I guess the Operation Rescue founder, Randall Terry, walked through with a sign that said abortion is murder. What guts this dude had. I mean, wow. I wouldn't even have enough guts to do that. One, I wouldn't like to have signs like that. They're not good for anything. But just in general, to walk through a crowd of rooms like that with any sign, and like even if it was a I Love Trump hat, that's just crazy. But that was crazy. So here's a funny. Nope, let's not do a funny. Yeah, this is good. I should have put this in my sports side, but I forgot. I forgot to put this in my sports side. So let's see here. Okay, so there's a JBA league basketball. It's a LeVar Ball thing. So everyone knows LeVar Ball, LeAngelo Ball, whatever. So anyway, LeAngelo Ball to join the Los Angeles Ballers. JBL League first round recap. So this is from Los Angeles. If you thought the first round of the JBA League games were exciting, then you haven't seen nothing yet with round 2. One, I've never started this, but the JBA has exceeded expectations with teams virtually even in the standings. Where they play 2 games each. The Los Angeles Ballers, who were one of the favorites to win the JBA title, fell into a funk and have added an interesting piece to their squad. So they were favorites to win a league that I didn't even know existed. Okay, they fell into a funk. After NBA teams surprisingly passed on LeAngelo Ball, he went to work out and give the teams that passed on him a show. After seeing the competitiveness of the JBA and the talent level, LeAngelo made the decision to join the Los Angeles Ballers alongside younger brother LaMelo and was present for the first practice this Saturday. He saw the talent level there. So, I just want to win for the team, LeAngelo said. That's all I want to do, win. I'm trying to play ball, and I'm trying to get better every day. So Los Angeles got off to a great start as expected, but dropped back-to-back games to New York and Dallas. The tune-up was needed, and it came with the addition of LeAngelo. It's all business, LaMelo Ball said. If you're not playing hard, you get sent home. They brought in Jello while he's been working out at home. This is a JBA. You have to come and play. I love playing with my brother. We have great chemistry. It feels good to play with him again. Oh my goodness. Is this a serious story? But it was just funny. Only LeVar Ball, right? The guy who sells you, what is it, $300 sneakers? So that should have been in our sports thing. What else do we have? So we have Navy SEALs who went and helped rescue. Obviously, you know about the Thai soccer team that was trapped, them and their coach, but a dozen kids and the coach, all out now. Thank goodness. So we had sent them help and some Navy SEAls. And so that's why this happened real quick. We sent help. Everybody kept politics out of it. And that's how we get things done quickly. Unlike when we tried to send help to Puerto Rico and politics became this and grandstanding, blah, blah. You know, that's what you have. So, on a sad note, I don't know. Should we end the show on a sad note? I don't know if we're ending the show. We might fit something else in. But former Hillary Clinton campaign strategist Adrienne Elrod on Monday dismissed rumors of Clinton launching another presidential run, calling them a pipe dream. It's silly. It's a pipe dream. I mean, look, she made it very clear that this was her last run. She's done. Now, why are they breaking my heart? I wanted Hillary Clinton to run again. It would be good. She could run again, or, I think I'd like her to run again. It would be fun. We need that type of humor in our life. I mean, she's just a contradiction, she's an embarrassment. Now, so we won't end on a sad note. See, we can end on a better note. Just 80 miles east of Silicon Valley, one of the wealthiest regions in the country, is Stockton, California, once known as America's foreclosure capital, the home to Nick and Nate Diaz, actually. Soon, the former bankrupt city will become the first in the country to participate in a test of universal basic income, known as UBI. Stockton will give 100 residents $500 a month for 18 months, no strings attached. Number one, my questions is, will Bernie Sanders be a Stockton resident? Number two, can they find a way to put tracking devices in the money, not tell anybody, and let's see where this money's spent? That would be great. So the non-traditional system for distributing wealth guarantees that citizens receive a regular sum of money. The goal is to create an income floor no one will fall beneath. The concept of UBI has gained traction and support from some Silicon Valley leaders, including Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and Mark Zuckerberg. It's been seen as a way to possibly reduce poverty and safeguard against the job disruption that comes with automation. Now, very interesting point that I heard a discussion on this. Very interesting point. And I've got to wrap this up quick, but because it's past our bedtime, right? They talk about job disruption. I had heard people, and they said, and this particular thing was about automation, but I've heard people talk about, what if you wanted to change jobs? At least you have some money coming in, so you're able to change jobs. That's kind of what I think unemployment should be for. You worked a long time, you want to change a job, and maybe you're struggling, or your company lays you off, whatever, they close down, they're cutting your pay or something, and now you're trying to find another job. You need a little bit of time. I think a reasonable amount of time you've donated to unemployment, or the employer, I should say, has donated, but you've worked there for a long time. You should be able, that should be like your bank account. You should be able to spend that. Not, you're going to get it all at one time, but, you know, divide it up by a year. If you've worked whatever and you have this amount in the pot, at least you have a decent income for a few months, 6 months, a month, whatever it is. Especially if you've been working maybe 20 years and then you get laid off. You should be able to, seek out a good job in a decent amount of time. You shouldn't have to have your back against. Well, I totally understand that. Get that. I think that's kind of what unemployment should be for. Now, that being said, where were these people when Obama put his tax, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, whatever it is, Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, I.C.E., we're going to call that junk. If you wanted to go get another job, you would get fined because you'd have no health insurance. And stop with there's COBRA nonsense, because everybody knows nobody can afford that. COBRA costs more than buying insurance off the street. So you have no job or whatnot, or you're in between jobs, you have to wait a few weeks, you don't get health insurance for 6 months in some jobs, so you're going to get punished for that. Especially if you're young and you're always changing jobs because you're transient, or either you're moving or you're trying to start a career. When you had a job, you want a career, and you get punished for that. Nobody seemed to care then about your job disruption or your lack of income then, right? It was stick it to you, and now all of a sudden they care what you do. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching Reality Check. Have a great evening and stay safe.